His opponent, from Chicago, Illinois, weighing 218 pounds, he is the World Heavyweight Champion,
January 10th, 2026. The Road to Royal Rumble. A night that would prove to be far more than just another stop on WWE's journey to its most unpredictable pay-per-view. Because on this night, in a match that nobody saw coming but everyone immediately recognized as essential, two of the most compelling forces in professional wrestling collided in a way that defied every expectation, shattered every prediction, and created a moment so visceral, so brutal, so absolutely unforgettable that it would define both men's legacies for years to come. CM Punk. The voice of the voiceless, the best in the world, the man who'd proven time and again that skill and determination could overcome any obstacle, faced Bronson Reed. The 330-pound wrecking ball from Australia, who'd been systematically destroying everyone WWE put in front of him with a level of dominance that was genuinely terrifying to witness. But here's what made this match so captivating, so impossible to look away from: it wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't a feud that had been building for months, with carefully crafted promos and escalating tension. This was spontaneous combustion. This was two egos colliding, because neither man could back down from a challenge. This was what happens when an irresistible force meets an immovable object, and both refuse to acknowledge that physics says one of them has to give. And what transpired in that ring on January 10th would answer a question that had been whispered in locker rooms and debated in arena seats for months. Can CM Punk's revolutionary style and mental warfare overcome someone who doesn't care about mind games, who can't be out-wrestled, who only understands one language: violence? The answer would come in blood, in broken bodies, in a match that pushed both men beyond their limits and left the WWE Universe absolutely stunned by what they'd witnessed. But to understand why this match mattered so much, why it became instantly legendary, why wrestling fans will be analyzing and debating it for decades to come, we need to understand how we got here. We need to understand what made these two warriors, who'd never had significant interaction before, end up in what would become one of the most brutal, most physical, most career-defining matches either man had ever competed in. Let's go back 3 days. Let's go back to the moment when the unstoppable monster and the best in the world first locked eyes and realized that a collision was inevitable. January 7th, 2026. Monday Night Raw. The show was already deep into its third hour, winding down with a championship celebration for whoever had won the night's main event. The crowd was tired but satisfied, getting their money's worth from a solid, if unremarkable, episode of WWE's flagship show. Nobody expected anything else significant to happen. Nobody expected that the final 10 minutes of the broadcast would set up one of the most anticipated matches in recent memory. Nobody expected Bronson Reed. But Bronson Reed had other plans. Bronson Reed always had other plans. Reed's music hit, and the crowd's reaction was immediate, a mixture of excitement and genuine apprehension. Over the past 6 months, Bronson Reed had been on an absolute tear through WWE's roster. Not just winning matches, but destroying opponents. His tsunami splash, a senton bomb delivered from the top rope by 330 pounds of pure muscle, had become the most devastating finishing move in WWE. Multiple superstars had been legitimately injured by it. Medical personnel had started positioning themselves at ringside whenever Reed competed because everyone knew someone was getting hurt. Reed wasn't just winning, he was ending careers, and he was doing it with a smile on his face that suggested he genuinely enjoyed the destruction. Reed walked to the ring with that characteristic swagger, his massive frame making the entrance ramp look smaller than usual. He grabbed a microphone before entering the ring, and his voice carried that Australian accent that somehow made his threats sound even more menacing. "You know what I'm sick of?" Reed's opening line immediately grabbed attention. "I'm sick of hearing about legends. I'm sick of hearing about how incredible wrestlers used to be. I'm sick of hearing about the Attitude Era, about the Ruthless Aggression Era, about wrestlers who had their time and need to accept that their time is over. Because here's the reality, none of those so-called legends could handle what I do in this ring today. None of them could survive 3 minutes with Bronson Reed. The crowd was booing heavily, but Reed fed off it, his smile growing wider. This was classic heel work, but there was an edge to it that felt legitimately disrespectful rather than performatively so. And there's one name that keeps coming up. One guy who everyone treats like he's untouchable, like he's somehow above the current roster because he left and came back. One guy who walks around with this attitude like he's the best in the world, like he's special, like he's different from everyone else. CM Punk. The arena absolutely exploded at Punk's name. Just the mention was enough to get a massive reaction, half the crowd cheering for their hero, half booing Reed for disrespecting him. Reed let the noise wash over him, clearly enjoying having struck a nerve. CM Punk thinks because he beat a few people, because he's had some legendary matches, because he can cut a good promo, that makes him untouchable in this era. He thinks he's adapted to modern WWE, that his style still works, that he can hang with the current generation. Well, I've got news for Punk, your style doesn't work against me. Your technical wrestling? Doesn't matter when I'm dropping 330 pounds on your chest. Your submission holds? Can't lock them in when I'm throwing you across the ring like you weigh nothing. Your mind games? Don't work on someone who doesn't care about anything except hurting people. It was a compelling argument, delivered with conviction. Reed was essentially declaring that he represented a new era of WWE that had evolved beyond what made CM Punk legendary. Size, power, and brutality would overcome skill, experience, and cunning. It was David versus Goliath, except in this version, Goliath was confident that stones wouldn't be enough to bring him down. So here's what I'm proposing, Punk, Reed continued, his voice dropping to something more menacing. You and me. One-on-one. Road to Royal Rumble in 3 days. I want to prove to everyone that the best in the world is just another name that doesn't mean anything anymore. I want to prove that Bronson Reed is the future and CM Punk is the past desperately trying to stay relevant. What do you say, Punk? You got the guts to step into the ring with a real monster? Or are you going to hide behind excuses about not wrestling your schedule and picking your spots? It was a perfectly crafted challenge. Disrespectful enough to generate heat, specific enough to make the match feel important, and delivered with enough confidence to make fans genuinely wonder if Reed might be right. The challenge hung in the air as Reed dropped the microphone and stood in the ring, waiting for a response that everyone assumed wouldn't come that night. But then, Cult of Personality hit. CM Punk's music. The crowd absolutely lost their minds. CM Punk appeared at the top of the entrance ramp, and the contrast between him and Bronson Reed was immediately striking. Punk was lean, cut, moving with that characteristic confidence, but without the overwhelming physical presence Reed commanded. It was a visual representation of their different approaches to wrestling, Reed the powerful destroyer, Punk the skilled technician. Goliath and David, except this David wasn't afraid. Punk had a microphone in hand before his music even finished, suggesting he'd been watching backstage and had prepared his response. He stood at the top of the ramp, not immediately walking toward the ring, establishing his own space, his own control of the situation. You know what's funny, Bronson? Punk's voice was calm, controlled, but with that edge that suggested danger underneath. Everyone who's ever been big and strong in this business has said the exact same thing you just said. Size matters. Power beats skill. The new generation has evolved beyond technical wrestling. I've heard it from guys who were bigger than you, stronger than you, more decorated than you. And you know what? I beat every single one of them. The crowd erupted. This was the CM Punk they loved, confident without being arrogant, acknowledging the challenge while making it clear he didn't view it as insurmountable. You think being 330 pounds makes you special, Bronson? You think dropping that weight on people is some revolutionary concept? I've been in the ring with Brock Lesnar. I've fought John Cena at his absolute peak. I've gone toe-to-toe with The Undertaker, with Triple H, with every unstoppable monster WWE has created over the past 2 decades. And I'm still here. Still standing. Still the best in the world. Punk started walking down the ramp now, closing the distance to the ring, his eyes locked on Reed, who was watching his approach with that same confident smile. "But here's what I think is really going on, Bronson," Punk continued as he reached ringside. "I think you're scared. I think you've been destroying people for months, racking up wins against guys who were either too small, too inexperienced, or too intimidated to really test you. And you're worried that eventually, you're going to face someone who won't be intimidated, who won't change their game plan just because you're big, who'll expose that for all your power and all your destruction, you're still just another wrestler who can be beaten." Punk climbed the steel steps and stood on the ring apron, one foot in the ring, one foot still outside, a metaphorical position suggesting he was on the edge of accepting, but wanted to make his point first. "So yeah, Bronson. I accept your challenge. Road to Royal Rumble, January 10th, you and me. But understand something, when I beat you, and I will beat you, it won't just be another win on my resume. It'll be a lesson. A lesson to you and everyone else who thinks size and power are all that matters in this business. You're about to learn why I'm called the best in the world. And trust me, it's a painful education." Punk stepped fully into the ring, and the two men went face to face. Or more accurately, face to chest, given Reed's significant height advantage. The visual was perfect, Punk staring up at the much larger Reed, neither man backing down, neither man showing an ounce of intimidation. The crowd was absolutely nuclear, chanting CM Punk, and "This is awesome," before the match had even been officially made. Reed grabbed his own microphone, his smile never faltering. 3 days, Punk. 3 days until I end your legend and prove that the best in the world can't handle the colossal." The two men stood there for another moment, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating, before Punk finally exited the ring, walking backward up the ramp, his eyes never leaving Reed. The match was set. The stage was established. And the WWE Universe couldn't wait for January 10th to arrive. The build-up over those 3 days was absolutely electric. WWE's social media went into overdrive, creating video packages highlighting both men's most devastating moves, their most impressive victories, their most compelling characteristics. The narrative being pushed was perfect. Could skill overcome size? Could experience defeat raw power? Could the best in the world prove that being best wasn't just a nickname but a legitimate description? CM Punk cut additional promos over those 3 days, each one adding layers to the story. He talked about his history of beating bigger opponents, his preparation for facing power wrestlers, his confidence that Bronson Reed was just another obstacle to overcome on his continued journey to prove he was still the best. But there was an edge to Punk's usual confidence, a recognition that this was a legitimate test, a dangerous opponent, a match that could genuinely go wrong if he wasn't at his absolute best. Bronson Reed, for his part, doubled down on his persona as the unstoppable destroyer. He appeared in backstage segments destroying training equipment, talking about how he was going to break Punk in half, promising that the tsunami splash would end Punk's career if he wasn't careful. Reed's confidence never wavered. He genuinely seemed to believe that his size and power advantage were insurmountable, that no amount of skill or experience could overcome the fundamental physics of a 330-pound man falling on a 200-pound man from the top rope. Wrestling analysts and podcasters immediately began debating the match. The consensus seemed to be that Punk was the favorite based on experience and track record, but that Reed represented a genuine threat because of his unique combination of size and surprising agility for someone his weight. The X factor, most agreed, would be whether Punk could avoid the tsunami. If Reed hit that move clean, the match was over. But if Punk could survive long enough to work his technical game, to wear Reed down, to target his legs and reduce his mobility, then the veteran had a real chance. The betting odds were surprisingly close. Punk was favored, but only slightly, recognizing that Reed's recent dominance and physical advantages made this far from a sure thing. The uncertainty was perfect for generating interest. Nobody knew definitively how this would play out, and that made it must-see television. January 10th arrived. Road to Royal Rumble was being held in a sold-out arena with a crowd that was absolutely electric from the opening bell. The entire show had been solid, but everyone knew what they were really there to see. The Punk vs. Reed match was scheduled for the main event, a deliberate choice by WWE to give it the prominence it deserved, to signal that this wasn't just another match, but something special. The video package that aired before the match was masterfully produced. It showed Reed's path of destruction over recent months, body after body left broken by the tsunami, victory after decisive victory, the building of a truly intimidating destroyer character. Then it showed Punk's legendary career, his historic title reigns, his classic matches, his ability to overcome every obstacle. The final shot was the face-off from 3 days prior, both men refusing to back down, the question hanging in the air, who would prove superior? The crowd was on their feet before any music even hit. This was the moment. This was the match that would answer the question of whether CM Punk could still hang with WWE's most dominant current stars, whether Bronson Reed was truly the unstoppable force he claimed to be, whether skill could overcome size in the modern era of professional wrestling. Bronson Reed's music hit first, and his entrance was absolutely menacing. He walked to that ring like he owned it, like the outcome was already decided, like this was just a formality before his hand was raised in victory. The crowd was booing heavily, but Reed fed off it, his confidence only growing with each step toward the ring. He climbed over the top rope, a power move designed to show his size and strength, and immediately went to the center of the ring, raising his arms and absorbing the negative reaction with that characteristic smile. Then Cult of Personality blasted through the speakers, and the arena absolutely erupted. CM Punk's entrance was electric, the crowd singing along with his music, hands raised, energy absolutely through the roof. Punk appeared at the top of the entrance ramp and for a moment just stood there, taking in the reaction, feeding off the energy. This was his crowd. These were his people. And he was about to prove once again why they believed in him. Punk made his way down the ramp with purpose, his eyes locked on Reed in the ring. There was no showboating, no playing to the crowd beyond acknowledging their support. This was business. This was about proving a point. This was about showing that the best in the world wasn't just a catchphrase, but a reality that still held true. Punk climbed into the ring, and the two men immediately went face to face again. The size difference was stark under the bright ring lights. Reed towering over Punk, outweighing him by well over 100 pounds. But Punk's body language showed zero intimidation. He stared up at Reed with absolute confidence, mouthing something that cameras couldn't quite pick up, but that clearly wasn't complimentary. Senior referee Rod Zapata, chosen for this match specifically because of his experience with physical, intense contests, called both men to the center of the ring for final instructions. "Gentlemen, this is a standard singles match. I want a clean fight, well, as clean as you're capable of. Understand?" Both men nodded without breaking eye contact with each other. The tension was absolutely palpable. The crowd was chanting CM Punk, which only made Reed's smile grow wider. He fed off playing the villain, off being the man everyone wanted to see lose. "Protect yourselves at all times," Zapata continued, then backed away and called for the bell. The match had officially begun. And what would happen over the next 25 minutes would exceed every expectation and create a modern classic that would be discussed for years to come. The bell rang, but neither man moved immediately. They circled each other slowly, carefully, each looking for an opening, each trying to read the other's strategy. The crowd was absolutely silent in anticipation. That rare moment in modern wrestling where fans are so invested they stop chanting and just watch, waiting for the first move that would set the tone for everything that followed. CM Punk made the first approach, coming in low, trying to use his speed and technical acumen to get inside Reed's considerable reach. He shot for a single-leg takedown, basic amateur wrestling, trying to take the big man's foundation away. But Reed sprawled perfectly, using his weight advantage to stuff the takedown, then shoved Punk away with such force that the smaller man stumbled backward several steps. The message was immediately clear. Reed wasn't just big and strong, he was technically sound. He'd scouted Punk, prepared for his technical wrestling approach, and had the skills to counter it. This wasn't going to be as simple as Punk using his superior wrestling ability to negate Reed's size advantage. This was going to require adjustment, creativity, finding openings that Reed hadn't prepared for. Punk circled again, this time coming in with strikes, quick jabs, and kicks designed to stay on the outside of Reed's power range while inflicting damage. A leg kick connected, then another, Punk clearly targeting Reed's base, trying to reduce his mobility. But Reed walked through the strikes like they were nothing, and when Punk got close enough, Reed exploded forward with a shoulder block that absolutely flattened Punk. The crowd gasped at the impact. Punk went down hard, and Reed immediately capitalized, dropping a big elbow that Punk barely rolled away from. If that elbow had connected, it might have legitimately broken ribs. Punk scrambled to create distance, using the ropes to pull himself up, and Reed charged in looking to squash him in the corner. But Punk's veteran instinct kicked in. He dropped down and rolled out of the ring at the last second, causing Reed to crash chest-first into the turnbuckles. The big man stumbled backward, and Punk immediately slid back into the ring, delivering a chop block to the back of Reed's knee that finally dropped the big man to the mat.